Happy Devils Wednesday. This is the State of the Fan Address, episode 291, titled Heading Up to Boston to have some chowder next to the harbor. I'm your host, Sam Wu, here with PucksandPitchforks.com editor-in-chief Nick Villano, streaming live on Facebook Live, YouTube Live, X Live, and Twitch on the Let's Go Devils Network. Coming to you live from the Primetime Radio Studios in North and South Jersey bunkers. Both undisclosed locations, as Max is saying, the lobster at the harbor. Heading up to Boston, Nick. Can't believe it. We're just less than 24 hours away from the big game between Team Canada and Team USA. It's got all the hype. It came out of nowhere. I didn't take the Four Nations tournament seriously. I didn't think we knew what it was. But when you add in the perfect storm that happened in this tournament, all is on the line right now for both countries, for both teams. This is going to be one for the ages. I can feel it right now.
I hope so. I feel like I've seen so many games with this much hype. Like, we've been hyping this game for 5 days, right? Since Saturday's USA Canada matchup, and everybody's into it. And like, it's truly, I mean, I was saying this, it's the most important game to USA Hockey in decades. And it's like some dumb exhibition game, but like, I gotta hand it to Gary Bettman. Like, this was such a phenomenal use. Like, what was it? What was it, the World Cup of Hockey they tried a couple years ago? But you remember, like, it was still a little off, right? There was a couple things that just didn't work. When was that? What time of the year? Was that before the season? Like, right before the season they did that?
Yeah, if I remember correctly, yeah. They tried right before training camp, and it ran a little bit during training camp. I vaguely remember, and it was just, this is different because you're in the middle of the season where usually in September I'm thinking about football.
Right.
Or
you have so much
races.
competition in September.
Yeah.
Right. It you know, it was a miss. There were some things that were cool. Like, Team North America was the thing that like came out of it, because it was like, what was it? Connor McDavid and Austin Matthews was on it, because it was basically all the young guys, right? It was like everybody under 25. So that was like the most fun part about it. But like, this is just different. I mean, there's also, that was what, didn't they send NHL players in 2014, right, to the Olympics?
Yes, that was again from TJ Oshie.
Yeah. So it hadn't been that long since you've seen Best on Best, and it was an epic Best on Best tournament. Like, there was a lot of great stuff that came out of that year,
except for the hotel rooms and
this
accommodations for Team USA.
Right. Yeah. I mean, but you know, like, that doesn't impact the fan experience. It's
yeah.
But so since that 2016 World Cup of Hockey, you haven't really gotten Best on Best. You gotten some IHF World Championships, but that's like, the guys who didn't make the playoffs get to go to that, and even some of the best guys don't even go to that. So you've been waiting, so long for this, and like, honestly, like, I say this a lot. I don't really say this publicly, like on forums like this, but like, something we take for granted is like how the pandemic slowed down time, and things that were in 2019 feel like they're 10 years ago, when in reality they were 5 or 6. Mm-hmm. And things that were in like 2016 feels like I was in high school. You know what I mean? It feels like
A long time ago.
You know, it feels like forever ago. You know, there's this weird thing where the pandemic just makes things feel so much longer or farther away. So it just feels like we haven't gotten this in a long time. And of course, Team USA being good is really helpful in this. There's stars. Like, I gotta hand it to hockey. Like, they've built stars over the last 3 years. Like, there are legitimate reasons to root for teams. And the hype around this is infectious. It's building new fans. I think that the peak of Saturday night's USA Canada matchup was 5.2 million views in the US. Mm-hmm. That's not even including Canada, but like 5.2 million views in the US. The Stanley Cup final last year only got to that number in Game 7. So it's, you know, this is serious. Like, this is incredibly important for USA Hockey and for hockey in general. Like, here's the thing is that there's a reason why Gary Bettman is focusing on American markets. Because I do feel like they feel like there's Canadians are going to watch, right? Canadians are going to watch hockey for the most part. There's a finite amount of growth that you can have in the Canadian market. Truly, hockey has almost infinite growth in the U.S. I will never forget, we've brought this up before, but I will never forget that Sports Illustrated cover from, like, I think it was 98, where it said, like, NHL has overtaken basketball, has overtaken the NBA. And we are in a unique place where basketball is kind of losing its popularity. Like, basketball was gone and away the second most popular sport 2 years ago. Like, everybody loved basketball. But Adam Silver has really kind of fallen asleep at the wheel, and he's let a lot of things go that made people just kind of lose interest in the sport. They haven't built American stars. You know, their biggest stars are Canadian, Serbian, and Slovakian. You know, like, they're young stars, at least, with Jokic, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and Luka Doncic. You know, your American stars like Anthony Edwards, who's not really that high up on the list. And then baseball, I loved baseball for... Let me rephrase this. If your team had a great season, you loved baseball. Like, I'm sure you loved baseball last season because the Mets had a great season. I liked baseball. The Yankees were super infuriating, but they went to the World Series for the first time since 2009, so I love that. If you're a Royals fan, I bet you're loving baseball right now with Bobby Witt Jr. and how well they're playing. You know, baseball is still a ultra regional sport. Hockey has an opportunity here to really build a fan base of insane proportions. You know, and do you remember when ESPN got hockey back? They signed that massive deal, and everybody's like, man, really? Hockey? For that much? I bet you ESPN would double that deal right now. Double it.
Yeah.
Just because of how well it's gone.
Here's my opinion. I'm changing course. Remember, I can be convinced to change course on opinions. I thought it was a bad idea for injuries, but let me tell you something. With all the injuries that have been happening, illnesses, whatever, if you're going to grow the game, like to have this opportunity, it's all worth it. It's all worth the
There's
risk.
a legit return on investment.
Yeah.
Like, there's
yeah.
you know.
For the betterment of the
it.
league and the game, that's what you do. And the Kachuk brothers, both getting hurt. McAvoy as well, getting hurt. The whole thing with Quinn
The
Hughes.
McAvoy one's weird. I think he's going to be back soon. I think he just had his was like an infection, and there's like a lot going on there. But I think he's...
But still,
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
why are they all getting sick in Canada? I've got conspiracy theories.
Don't get into sickness conspiracy theories. We're not there yet. That's not. Let's not do that.
But my whole attitude was I did not, and we didn't expect, and I think there's a little bit of luck that happened with it as well, with the timing of everything, that's going on in this world. That I think it was a perfect storm that led to last Saturday. I was fired up. Matter of fact, I was cursing at the TV for about 20 minutes in the beginning of the game and before the game. And I'll tell you, it got people engaged. Now I got people at work that don't really follow hockey, but it's in the mainstream media what's going on. And now they're talking about it, and now people are watching it or re-engaging with hockey, where I was a hockey fan 10 years ago, kind of got bored, got sidetracked. Now I'm back. I'm back into it.
Yeah.
And I think that's wonderful for the game.
Do you know what this reminds me of? And this is going to be a weird connection. Last year, WWE wrestling was as hot as it's been since the 90s, and it brought people back, and it kept a lot of them there. In my opinion, they'd fumbled a lot of it. Like, there's a lot of just it just hasn't been as exciting. But last year it was getting millions more people watching. Like, the pay-per-views are doing much better. It was just in the lexicon. And that's where you want to be. I always bring up the example that The Ringer, which is a podcast for everything, doesn't have a hockey podcast. The Ringer is one of the most popular sports brands in the world, and they just don't talk about hockey unless Bill Simmons feels like talking about it for like 5 minutes. This could turn hockey into an undeniable talking point. Like, this is a start off first take kind of a moment. This is a get non-hockey podcasts to dedicate an entire episode to it moment. This is a change the habits of, there will come a time where, like, a guy like Stephen A. Smith has to figure hockey into his into his lexicon.
Well, it takes one thing has to happen. The United States has to win tomorrow for that to happen. If they lose, it's not going to happen immediately. Or
lose in controversial fashion.
And those refs, I'll be watching those refs.
I don't think it should be a ref thing, but like
I think the officiating has been pretty good so far. They let things slide in that Saturday game. That is a very difficult match game to officiate. You're in Canada, and you can be persuaded, but I thought the officiating and the video none of this like inconsistent BS. They seem to be very consistent with the rule book.
All right, I feel like we're going to argue here.
Oh, let's do that. Can I
How
sign
do you think Jack Hughes has played?
Jack Hughes, I think he's played wonderfully.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
I thought there's
because he hasn't been a liability. The Jack Hughes I hate is the one that's Mr. Turnover. I have yet to see him really do anything that has cost Team USA, like being the weakest link. My only concern with Jack Hughes is he going to get physically beaten up in the corners? He's taken some vicious hits, but
so is Connor McDavid, so is Sidney Crosby. Like he's not like,
but he's little.
Not a Jack,
he's little.
Yeah, well,
Yeah. But I will say though, can he be better? I think where a lot of fans go wrong is everybody sees Jack's upside, and that upside is not now. It's maybe 4 years from now.
Yeah.
I think right now is, look, if this game goes into overtime, I would expect Jack Hughes to be lethal.
Yeah. Yeah, that's another thing is that USA hasn't been in overtime yet.
Yeah.
I think, first of all, I think he's been fantastic as well. I think he's been spectacular. I think he's been dynamic in a different way. He still skates through people, and these are the best players in the world.
He's playing
still
his
skating
role.
through them.
He's playing his role.
Yeah.
Because if you
Mike
think
Sullivan
about,
is
yeah. If you think about like the talent that's on Team USA, he's playing his role within the team. On the Devils, he plays another role. But right now, he's comfortable where he's at. I'm not expecting him to do, to be putting the puck in the net or whatever. I'm expecting him to be creative and keep up. I don't think he's had a bad tournament at all.
His most successful, or the USA's most successful forward is Jake Gensel so far, and that's Hughes' line mate. And like, even though if he doesn't get assists on all those goals, he's still impacting the play enough to either draw a guy to cheat on him, or he's made a pass like deep into the play that he doesn't get an assist for, or there's a lot he's doing to help this team. That's he's doing well in zone exits. He's doing well in defensively. He's just phenomenal. I think he's the third best defensive forward by some advanced metrics. Like he's killing it. I understand he hasn't scored goals, but we're really talking about two games here. Because I don't know about you, but I don't think the U.S. gave it their all against Sweden. I think that they maybe put like 50, 60, 70%, somewhere in that range, and they still hit like 6 posts. It was like the most insane thing you ever seen. So they were beating. I think was it Gustafson in that. Yeah. They were still beating Gustafson, and you love seeing Jesper Bratt getting the player of the game, and I don't like. I was listening to Puck Soup, which we've had the some of the hosts of Puck Soup on here before. But they were just like, yeah, where's Jack Hughes been? I was like, have you been watching this tournament? And then, I was confused, so I put it out on Twitter. And Sam, I think it's like 50-50 from Devils fans who think he's been bad and who thinks he's been good. There's no in between. You think he's been really good or he's terrible. And I was like, people were like, he's making all these turnovers. I was like, what are you watching? What game? Like, I truly don't understand. Like,
what turnovers? I just said he hasn't cost the team.
I think people are just
looking for perfection.
They're just looking at the worst of Hughes and just equating it to what this tournament's been because he's only had 1 point. I truly think that people just stat watch and be like, he's got 1 point, he's not having a good tournament. I'm like, I get what you're going for, but they're in the championship, and his line is scoring at will. And and people even talk about Austin Matthews having a bad tournament. It's like, again. Look what the other team is doing against them. And they're matched up sometimes with the McDavid line. So it's, there is a evaluation you have to do when you're on the ice. And you're like, okay, I'm going against McDavid. I feel like if he doesn't score, that's a win. Right? If we stop him from scoring, or stop him from getting a big chance, it's a bonus if we score. But if he doesn't score, that's a win, because everything's going to drop off from there. And then your Jack Eichel, Matthew Brady Tkachuk line is going to get a chance to go against the lesser line if you're going against the McDavid line, and the lines from there, and that's how you get like a Chris Kreider goal like you did, because they're facing lesser competition in Canada. So it's a. I look at the conversation around it, but I can't believe it. Jack Hughes I think he's playing really well. Is this his coming out party? No, it hasn't been his coming out party, but that's because he's playing a different role, and this is the role that Sheldon Keefe has instilled in this kid. You playing a defensive game is as impactful to winning as you dominating offensively. A win's a win, and if we keep them off the board, we're gonna win just as many games as if you score 4. You know what I mean? So I think, and he's just been phenomenal. That side of the game, it's almost like The Hughes brothers' defensive acumen this year is the most surprising part of the season. Both of them have been great defensively, especially when it comes to like defensive playmaking. Like they're both making big plays defensively, like the big steals, the big tips, the big, getting into passing lanes, the big blocks, I think that I just don't understand people thinking that Jack Hughes had a bad tournament.
Some fans can't be satisfied, and a lot of it is people look at stats more than what they're actually watching. They're looking for perfection. I'm looking for, look, this is going to be great for Jack Hughes and his development because being on this team, the experience he's getting in this tournament is going to serve the New Jersey Devils well because he's elite on elite right now. And he's not the go-to guy. He's a guy that's going to, play his role and have a big impact. I'm thinking tomorrow. It's like tomorrow, I'm heading up to Boston, going to be at the big game. And what we're going to see, Nick, and we should do our predictions on this game, towards the end of the podcast. But what we're going to see is elite hockey at its finest tomorrow.
I hope so.
No.
The injuries worry me a little bit.
I think injuries are part of the game. Elite teams find a way, and we're going to see heroics.
You can't get more elite than this.
It could be Jack Hughes. It could be possibly if Chris Kreider cracks the lineup. It could be coming from somewhere we have no idea.
Brock Nelson could score 2 goals. Brock Nelson's a really good player.
It could be anything.
Brock Nelson's a guy that the Devils want to change the dynamics of their top 6. But he's like the 13th forward on this team.
It's like
could be Brett Pesce. Brett Pesce heading to Boston.
Yeah, 72 Summit Series between the Soviets and Team Canada. The guy last name Sanderson scores the game-winning goal, and the Canadians have not stopped talking about it. Or 1987 Summit Series, Mario Lemieux, Wayne Gretzky, that type of team. This one, again, the U.S. team has a lot to gain from it if they win than Canada. Canada is going to go out there and try to win.
Yeah.
But, if you were to ask me who's going to win this game and what it's going to boil down to, I'm going to tell you something. I'm giving the edge to Team USA for one reason, and that's Johnny Gaudreau's jersey everywhere.
Yeah.
In that arena. And that's just going to give Team USA the edge. Because I think they honestly, when you see that, and they brought his dad to practice, I think it's just these two teams are so evenly matched. That's the one thing that I think it's going to be. And plus, Team USA has the home ice advantage here. Totally have the home ice advantage.
They have Hellebuck.
Yeah.
But Hellebuck, I needed to see it from Hellebuck, and he's been phenomenal. I've made some really bad. I don't know if you want to call them predictions, but I've failed on numerous occasions with my articles. There's no article that I think is a mistake more than when I was like, "Oh, it's good we didn't get Connor Hellebuck." I convinced myself of that. I still was like, it's not that bad because he hasn't been that good in the playoffs. But this tournament showed me Hellebuck would have been the key to a Devils dominant run. It's a mistake on my part.
I don't think so. I don't think so. Here's why. Because you're talking about the entire length of the contract. maybe
I
now may
understand.
seem like a mistake, but you'll be revisiting that article 4 years from now and may think differently. So I wouldn't, I wouldn't,
Yeah.
because your article, I remember reading it. It was a great article on pucksandpitchforks.com, by the way, and I just think that you really don't know to hit age 34, 35 what that contract is going to be. It could be an albatross by then. So you're
Yeah, I would just think back to Corey Schneider and how good Corey Schneider was, and the second the Devils were ready, like it's like, okay, you can be elite now, like we're good. And he's like, nah, bro, I'm broken. You know what I mean? And it was
yeah.
just, um, and he just wasn't there when they needed him, and I had that in my head. I was like, man, they can't do that again. Like that really, that Corey Schneider contract, one could argue, really is the reason why they were in the rebuild in the first place, because they were paying him $6 million, and it was just lighting money on fire. So Ray Shero didn't want to spend big on a goalie. You already did spend big on a goalie. You got Corey Schneider, and that contract was helpless. And then I remember when Tom Fitzgerald bought him out, and I was like, oh, man, you're going to be paying for that for a while. And it hurt them. I think it finally fell off the books last year, right?
Yeah.
You were still paying Corey Schneider until last year. It was $2 million.
I think this year is the last year of Kovalchuk.
Oh, thank goodness. They have no dead money next year. None. After, what was it, 11 years of the Kovalchuk contract or something?
Yeah.
14?
It was ridiculous.
It was stupid. And like, I get it. It's $250,000. Like, it's but with how teams treat the cap and how close to the cap everybody is at all times, where like, you're starting 21 players sometimes just to be under the cap. You're not going with the full 23. $250,000 is something, and it's impactful at the trade deadline. It's impactful during the season. It's obviously impactful during free agency. Like, you got to be a little bit more nimble. So having that off the books is going to be great. And also, like, I'm just sick of seeing Ilya Kovalchuk on the cap sheet.
Yeah.
But speaking of goalie, I do want to pivot real quick, talk a little Devils. You see Markstrom's back today.
It's a good sign.
Yeah, he sure came back yesterday. I expected he should be back. He talked about his injury. It did come from the cross-check from Nick Suzuki. It sounded like it was just, he called it an oblique injury. I don't know if there's any tearing or whatever it is, but it sounded like it was just like, he got me real good. And once the adrenaline worn off, you kind of have to like reevaluate everything. What you're happy to hear, and I guess maybe I'm like jumping to conclusions, but I feel like if it was a rib injury, you would have said ribs and not oblique. But if it was like broken ribs, like that's something that takes time to heal. So you can return, but you're not the same guy. Like, your breathing's heavy, and a lot of things are really hard. I'm happy that doesn't sound like what it is. And then with Markstrom, like, him back on the ice is huge.
Mm-hmm.
Because what do the Devils play? Do they play Tuesday? Is that their next game?
No, they play Saturday.
Oh, is it that?
Dallas,
okay.
yeah.
So they play.
So I'm going to have a whirlwind.
Yeah, I don't think I would expect Markstrom back by Saturday, but I can expect him back like early next week. If he's truly like practicing hard and he's back, But you also, like you saw from Jake Allen, you don't need to rush him back. The annoying thing is that Nico Dawes is dealing with something now. I think he's got a sickness that's keeping him out of practice. So you got Tyler Brennan up, which is weird because he jumped from the ECHL to the NHL. Chase Stillman is on the Devils practice. I think people are overreacting to that. Stillman's going to be back in the AHL when Jack Hughes is back and when Jesper Bratt and Eric Hall return to practice. So I don't think they're calling up Stillman to to like give him a legitimate look. I think he's there to get a nice paycheck for a week. The Devils do tend to do that, where they like for the guys they're like, we just need a practice body. Why don't you come? Like you haven't been up yet. Why don't you come get an NHL paycheck for a week? Dress with the team, practice with the team for a little while, get that experience. They do tend to spread that around. That you see Hallinan get that. You saw that's. I think that's how Justin Dowling did get a shot. He was kind of like one of those guys, and he got called up, and he was a center. You've seen Schmelzer get that. So I am curious of. I thought at some point we were going to see Adam Beckman. At this point, I don't think you're going to. I think he's an AHL guy this year, and that's what it is. What it is. Do I think Stillman means anything though? I don't know, man. I haven't seen anything from him when I do watch the AHL. I just haven't seen him do much.
Well, Tom Fitzgerald's had some first-round failures in drafting.
Yeah.
He's masked them with trades, just like Muhammad Dolan. And Alexander
Which Muhammad Dolan
Holtz.
looks pretty good. He looks fine for where he took him.
Yeah, but
Everybody
Alexander
hated
Holtz
that
is bad.
Oh yeah, abject failure.
Great with Luke Hughes, but I mean Simon Nemec, what a waste. I don't feel good about this one. I think he's going to be good as gone.
It's way too early.
No, he's
way too early.
He's going to be good as gone. Should have had Logan Cooley. Should have had Logan Cooley.
Yeah, but let me ask you this: would you rather have Logan Cooley or Brady Tkachuk?
Brady Tkachuk.
Okay, so if he turns Simon Nemec into Brady Tkachuk,
doesn't mean he drafted well.
You got Brady Tkachuk.
Well, but right now they don't. Right now they
I'm
don't.
just messing with you.
I'm
just messing with you. No,
I mean, how does Brady Tkachuk go back to Ottawa? I don't know.
There's a lot of things about this that are going to be awkward. I think, going back to the Quinn Hughes thing, if he wanted to play for Team USA and they kind of cooked the books to make the team doctor refuse to clear him or something, I don't know, man. Like, we could see that Quinn Hughes trade a lot sooner than we thought.
Well, yeah.
And I don't know if he would be traded. I don't think he would be traded to the Devils. I think that they would avoid that at all costs. I think he would be traded to another team, and then, that team would try to re-sign him. But
I'll tell you, ever since Tkachuk and Gaudreau left Calgary, being in Canada, away from home, all that. And then, with Brady being in part of those fights, I don't know. I don't know. And Austin Matthews, do you think he would really want to stay in Toronto?
I do. So my theory is so you got to remember the Matthew Tkachuk and the Johnny Gaudreau things they both had very different reasons, but I think the pandemic weighed on them a little bit more.
Yeah,
they weren't allowed to come home, see their family at all. So they wanted to come to America, so they didn't have to worry about that, and it was just a different time. What did they leave in 2023? 2 or 3?
3. 2023. Or 2022. Yeah, something like that.
So it was 2022 because Tkachuk was on the team that made the run to the final that lost, right? Mm-hmm. He was on that 2023 team. So, I look at Brady Tkachuk and I just it's the Senators though. It's not the Leafs. The Leafs are different than the Senators and the Flames. It's the Leafs and Oilers are it's really Leafs than Oilers. And then there's all the other teams down here, the Senators, the Jets, the Flames. The Canadians are up here too. So there's just a line of demarcation between these Canadian teams, where the Canadians, the Maple Leafs, and the Oilers are up top, and the Jets, the Flames, and the Senators are down below. And then the Canucks are kind of the one that's in the middle, but they're just a mess. Right? As far as like a franchise goes, like the Canucks, it's a great city. Vancouver's a lovely city. Very passionate fans. So I think players would be fine staying there. But, Calgary, you're playing in the Saddle Dome, which is a dump. Ottawa, like there's just so much consternation about the ownership, and then they finally got bought. Now there's a fight about the arena, and it's back and forth.
They're still playing Canada.
No, I understand. I understand what you're saying. I just think it's more of a problem for Calgary, Winnipeg, and Ottawa. Although we were just talking about Hellebuck, and Hellebuck signed the massive deal in Winnipeg. He's American.
Yeah. But he signed it before everything happened.
Maybe.
You're kind of stuck with it. I don't know. I just, emotions will be very high.
Yeah.
Tomorrow. I'm going there as a fan.
Yep.
I'm going there to observe. I'm going there to make friends with the U.S. fans and Canadian fans because there's going to be a lot of people there, a lot of passionate people there. I'm going to cheer for my team, my country, and I'm not going to disrespect anybody. I want to be part of. I want to be part of history. I want to witness it myself. So that's why I'm going with Mrs. Wu to the game and have a good time. We're going to meet up with Paul Marino, Max,
nice.
as well, and it's just be part of something. Now, there's no way of predicting if the game's going to be a blowout, whatever. But it's just like when Mrs. Wu and I and the family and Shorts guy went to, Game 4 against the Phillies, and that was the Lindor Grand Slam. We just happened to be there. To witness something pretty cool. And I think this one, I feel that a lot of good's going to come out of it. I feel like a lot of I think it's going to grow the game to a whole new level because everybody's going to be watching, and it's going to be front page news in both countries. Who won?
Some players thrive under pressure. Some players crumble under it. It's going to be really interesting to see where all these two teams of stars where they align. You want to do predictions?
Yeah.
All right, I'll go first. I know the score I want to say. I want to say 5-3 with an empty netter. So 4-3 in meaningful time. I think there's going to be a goal scored with less than 10 minutes to go in the third period to give one team the lead. It's going to be a devastating goal. I think it's going to be a more fun game than, Saturday was fun. The fights, the pomp, the circumstance, like all that was going on, the hits. But the U.S. played a grind them down type of game. I think with the injuries, it's going to make it a little bit more fluid. It's weird. You being in the building makes me pick the Americans. I think U.S. is going to do it. I think they're going to take this 5-3. I think.
What do I have to do with it? I'm just sitting in the stands with Mrs. Wu.
I think you're going to do something. I think you're going to maybe you score the game-winning goal. I don't know. Or no, you're the goal.
No, I'm going to be I'm going to be a streaker with the American flag and just go out in the ice.
There you go.
And then get tackled by security and never do a podcast again.
But I think I'm trying to think of. I think it's going to be like somebody weird is going to score that game winner. I think it's going to be. I hate this pick, but I think it's going to be JT Miller. Like just to be
wow.
I think JT Miller is going to score the game winner on just like a gross goal. It's gonna look like similar to the Henrique goal, ironically, where it's just everybody just like chipping at it, like the stress is high, and then the puck's gonna trickle over. It's gonna be a goal for JT Miller, and it's a win for the Americans.
I'm gonna say it's gonna be a tight game, and Canada up 2-1. U.S. tied up with less than 10 seconds. With 10 seconds left in the third period to tie it up. Game goes into overtime. And it's going to be Jack Hughes, 1-on-1, 3-2 U.S. in overtime.
Oh, so you got overtime here. Who scores?
Jack Hughes in overtime. Because that 3-on-3 is in his wheelhouse, and he's not going to score during the game, but I think that's when he comes out, and it's going to be a cherry-picking one-on-one type play past Bennington. That's my prediction. I want to pick one of the smaller guys on the team because it's going to be fitting for Johnny Gaudreau.
Yeah, and you got a couple of them, like Kreider, like you said, Hughes. There's a couple other guys that are a little smaller. Is Nelson smaller? Brock Nelson.
Max is saying if it goes to OT, it goes to the NHL playoff format OT. Is that true? I thought it was 3-on-3.
Is it different in the championship?
Ryan's saying the overtime's 5-on-5. So why did I get that mixed up? I thought it was 3-on-3.
It was 3-on-3 in the round robin, right? Wasn't it?
So but is the championship game different?
I guess so.
Well, thanks, Max. Thanks for blowing up my prediction. All right, so it wasn't Jack Hughes. So it's like playoffs. Okay, championship game is different. Sorry, guys, I wasn't keeping up. I'll say Jack
the
Hughes
championship
scores
game overtime will be the same as the NHL playoffs. Womp womp.
That sucks. I got it wrong. I hate being wrong.
Sorry, Sam.
Yeah.
I didn't know that either. Truthfully, I didn't care to know it, but
yeah.
Sorry, I steered you wrong.
Yep.
Do you still think overtime though?
Yeah, I'm thinking overtime.
Who's your pick then to score?
I'm going to stick with Jack Hughes.
Okay, just in the 5-on-5.
It's the 5-on-5.
I think if it goes to overtime, it's going to be Matthews. I think Matthews is going to score.
Yeah.
If it goes to overtime.
Ryan says I just jinxed the Americans. I didn't jinx anybody.
He's going to be in the building.
I know. With a big American flag.
Heading up the what's that Boston trip? Is that 6 hours?
Yeah, I think it's less than 4.
Oh,
it depends on traffic. It's Connecticut that kills you. Connecticut's the one that kills you.
Do you take one leg up or 95 or?
I just go by what Waze tells me.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, if Waze tells me to go all the way to Albany and then cut through, I'll do it. I mean, hopefully there's no sinkhole like there is on Route 80 that's been messing up my commute every day.
Right. Yeah. Try to skip that.
And Max gave me some tips going under the Big Dig tunnels in Boston.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. The Big Dig. Is that like the tunnels when you're going to Pittsburgh where you're like driving through a mountain?
Yeah, or you're under the harbor. But hopefully the ceiling doesn't cave in or collapse.
Tunnels scare me. I hate tunnels. They scare the hell out of me. Who thought of this? Who thought of building a road underneath the water? Who did this?
I don't know. But
Like, is there? I don't want to talk about it. Anyway, let's do plugs.
Yep. Let's just do that.
Pucksandpitchforks.com has same. I didn't think that the writers would be this excited about the tournament, but they are of course excited about the tournament. I think we have 15 articles on the Four Nations face-off on there. And then we got, I wrote about Nico Hischier returning to practice. I wrote about Brett Pesce going to the Four Nations face-off today. Jenny Streeter wrote about, we were anticipating Quinn Hughes coming. We had to adjust some of the language, but we broke down every single time that Jack Hughes and Quinn Hughes have been teammates. This was going to be the first time, I believe, that they'd be teammates as professionals. So you can see the breakdown every time they were teammates and juniors growing up, where they were on the same team. That's on pucksandpitchforks.com right now. I have some trade stuff. We got some prospect stuff. It's like there's a lot of articles on pucksandpitchforks.com right now.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. pucksandpitchforks.com.
One more plug.
Yep.
Tomorrow, I'm going to post 10 players who did not get the invite to the Four Nations face-off who will represent their country in Milan in 2026. That'll be up on tomorrow morning.
Oh, good.
Maybe tonight, but probably tomorrow morning.
Okay. Yeah, the only thing I'm going to plug is I'm going to go to the game tomorrow, have a good time. I might do a live look-in so everybody sees what I'm doing. I might just take the phone, go live on the Let's Go Devils Network.
Phone's going to die. You won't be able to waze your way back.
Don't worry about it. I'll have Mrs. Wu's phone on standby.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you staying up there or are you driving back?
We got to drive back. I got to be at work the next day. So it's
I've done this crazy stuff before for those once-in-a-lifetime experiences like you said. So,
hey,
I'd call you crazy, but I'd do it.
If the United States win, it's going to be a fun ride back home. And it's something that when you're growing up, you hear about 1980. It's about your country. It's also about the song "Free Bird" as well, because coincidentally in college, my best friends in college, they were on the Free Bird line, and they did the same thing. So it's kind of funny that's now 25 years later.
That is funny.
Yeah, and unfortunately, we have day jobs, so it's just going to be in, out. But I'm sure we're going to have a lot to talk about afterwards. So keep it with the Let's Go Devils podcast network. I might do a live look-in during warm-ups, maybe after the game, all that kind of stuff. And, that's it.
We did it.
All right. Well, we're going to get out of here. I want to thank all those tuning in to this podcast, dropping the podcast a little later. Steve Engel, that's old news. It's been old news for a while. Anyway. All right.
What's old news?
That Quinn Hughes not joining Team USA.
We talked about it.
Yeah, we talked about it. See, Steve Engel doesn't really pay attention. He doesn't pay attention at all. He just likes to yap in the YouTube live chat. But anyway. Alrighty. Till next time, let's go Devils.